Hello traders, hope you're doing good and welcome to a new video on how to analyze any charts from scratch, Series 2, Episode 2. So let's get started. Have a coffee or tea, sit back and enjoy it. Of course, feel free to request any instrument in the comment section below and I will be happy to do it next. Last time, Episode 1, if you remember, we went over gold. For today, I picked a crypto asset, OP, Optimism. As you can clearly see, we have been overall bullish from a long-term perspective. We always start our analysis from weekly and monthly. In this case, I will not check monthly because we don't really have any data. This is the case in new coins and stocks. Unlike Forex, where we have a lot of data, so are able to draw long-term key rejection levels or support and resistance and so on. For crypto and stocks, most of them, of course, we rely more on the overall trends, key around numbers, supply and demand, market structure, and so on. So you see a practical example now. We have been overall bullish, right? We have our impulse correction, and so on. And we are currently in a correction phase. This is weekly. This is for us to feel the overall market. And we can clearly see that we are bullish. So we want something to engulf this overall bullish trend. And this is where I personally go for trend lines. I don't like moving averages because it's different for every asset, for every time frame. It crosses the price and so on. It's a good strategy for those who know how to use it as dynamic support and resistance on crossovers, on how to do it. But I personally don't find myself home. I like trend lines better. I have my own rules for those who already know me and so on. So we have been overall bullish. I want to engulf this overall bullish movement to know when we are overbought, oversold as non-horizontal support and resistance as well. And you can see the lower band right there. It's very clear, very clean. And the upper bound like this as a rising, broadening wedge. Anyway, don't worry about the names. It's just a non-horizontal support and resistance. So once we push higher, we expect the price to make a correction. And once we push lower, we expect the next impulse movement. Yes, impulse upward because we are bullish. So we are expecting a higher low and a higher high. Now, we're in a correction phase. This is what we know so far just by plotting our non-horizontal support and resistance. So once we approach the lower bound of this big rising broadening wedge from weekly, we'll be expecting the bulls to kick in and make a new all-time high. Let me make my video smaller to focus on the chart. So this is it. I make sure it's appearing on lower time frames. Let's say daily H4, perfect. So next, we want to go for structure. We want to go for supply and demand zones and so on. Maybe supply and resistance as well. So we can clearly see that previously, around the previous phase, if you want to call it, we have been bearish correction, and then we had this big impulse, and then the price retested around the structure, and which is also a demand zone because we had an explosive movement upward. We had this correction around this area, and we started the next impulse from here. So if you apply the same logic, this is the structure that got broken upward. And we also have a demand zone right there. So as we tested, we have a demand previous structure and so on, which is also currently lining up with the lower trend line, acting as a non-horizontal support. So this area here is a massive, massive zone to be looking for the next impulse to start. Of course, price can still out if you want, if you want overshoot it or undershoot it, but it's an entire zone that we are looking for buy stops around it. So we don't buy blindly because price can still push lower. And as traders, we want to minimize our risk and maximize our reward. So we want to get the best entry and of course, long or look for the best outcome. So this is it. We are approaching this zone and you can clearly draw a support resistance here, which is also, as mentioned previously, a demand zone. Multiple rejections from this area. So it's a lower or higher, it doesn't really matter. It's just for us to highlight this overall area. So this is what we know so far. Next, we are able to draw another one, which is clearly right there. You can see big rejections here, and then turned into support, and then into a resistance again. So for the bulls to take over long term and start this crazy next impulse movement higher, which might be pushing to around 5 or even more, like 6 and so on, making a new all-time high, in this case, a new higher high, we need to see a break above this zone, which is 3.1, 3.15. Meanwhile, as you push a little bit lower, we'll be looking for this short-term buy and target this AI there. This is how you feed the market. And as you clearly see, a couple of minutes down, we are still on weekend. We already know the entire story, right? So next, if you zoom into lower time frames, let me make sure they are appearing. Perfect. If you zoom into daily time frame, for example, you can clearly see the swings highs and swings lows better. And yes, this is RichTL, my baby, to make objective technical analysis, as you clearly notice. So here we go. We have been flat here. This is the last major objective high from RichTL, broken upward, the next impulse started. And currently, this is the last high, which is lining up with the resistance zone we highlighted from weekly time frame. So if you break it upward, we'll be expecting a crazy next long-term bullish movement. Meanwhile, as mentioned, we are here, so we are looking for short-term buy setups. And the exact same thing on H4 time frame from a medium-term perspective. Bulls took over, bears took over, and we are currently bearish. So we are bearish, right? We're in a correction phase within this big range. And if you go for this is very, very simple as well. We have been bearish within this big zone. And I'm looking for something like this to form around this area. And then we'll be buying on break upward and target this upper bound. So for now, this is not ready yet. It's ready on daily from a long-term perspective if you break above this resistance. But meanwhile, from medium-term perspective from H4, and of course, I'm going over spot here. For futures, you can zoom into even lower time frames as we approach the zone and then look for a buy, or even wait for it to break above this one and go for a buy, stop loss below the previous low, and so on. Maybe we'll cover it in a different episode. But for now, what I'm looking for is a drop, maybe form something here, break it and invalidate the trend line, or form something here around the trend line and break it, and at the same time break the trend line. So this is what I'm looking for on OP, to go for a short-term long position, or like medium term. It wouldn't be that if you want short-term, it would be 40% bullish movement, and then I'll be booking profit here, and then I'll be adding the long again after breaking above this one from daily time frame, and then target the upper bound of the zone, which would be around 100% bullish movement, around 6 round number, which is the new all-time high that we are speculating. So that's it for today. And let me know which ones you'd like to cover next to add it, hopefully. Let me know if you like it. What would you like me to add for you to understand it better? I'm trying to be clean, clear, at the same time, fast and educational. Best of luck, and I'll see you hopefully on the next one.